I see someone dancing. Yes. Okay. Beautiful. As you're all arriving, I invite you to take a moment to come into your body in your own way. You can close your eyes just to get present to your own self. And if dancing and moving feels like it's what wants to happen in your own space, go ahead and allow that to happen. If pulsing your sexual organs is a way that you start to get juiced up and come into your body, I invite you to do that. I invite you to really invite presence into the temple of the sensual goddess within your body, and really inviting you with your eyes closed in your own world to feel into, to take this moment, to feel into, how do I light the flame in the temple of the sensual goddess within my body? What is a quick way for me to begin to connect? Is it by feeling the parts of my body making contact with the seat beneath me? Is it by swaying my hips? Is it placing my hands on this part of my body to just remember, oh yeah, what's happening here? Is it by directing my breath into this part of my body and feeling that that oxygen is fanning the flames? Is it dropping that cord and beginning to pull energy up through that cord into her temple? Almost imagining like there is a lamp, an oil lamp on the altar in the temple of your sensual goddess within your own body. And the oil for that lamp is coming from the earth, from the Shakti. And you're pulling it up through that cord, and it's liquefying and feeding that flame. And maybe your breath is fanning the flame. And just feeling the warmth in that part of your body, making connection. And as I said, if moving, if swaying allows you to feel that, just becoming alive there and feeling into all that we've covered so far with the different practices, the different goddesses. Maybe noticing if you can connect to the feeling of the magic of Ocean's Haripat. And maybe send some of the magic out into the field of energy of the sisterhood that's connecting virtually right now. For those that are present live and those that are not with us live, maybe sending some of your Shakti, some of your magic to them. And we'll inhale and we'll do one Ma chant together. Actually, no, let's do all three. We're going to do three. So inhaling. From the heart. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes. Hello, beauties. I would love to hear a little bit about how the week with Oshun has been. Is there anybody, let me do this. Is there anybody who would like to share? Anyone who's been having a good week, a bad week, something up in the field for you? Don't see any hands up. Yeah, Megan.
A good week with Oshun, and I found myself singing a lot and writing songs and singing songs to and about my yoni, and that was really cool for me and really nice. And I found myself like writing love letters to myself, and actually kind of experimenting with alternate timelines, which might seem kind of weird to people, but yeah, it was great.
Beautiful. Like when you say alternate timelines, what I'm envisioning is that you're seeing like your future self and maybe speaking to her, or speaking from your future self to your current self.
Well, I was experiencing myself in kind of a different timeline. It could be a future timeline. It could be a parallel timeline. I mean, because time is, doesn't really exist.
Right.
But I went into it because I was just wanting to experiment with my reality. And so as I journaled, it just came through, and a song came through, and it was beautiful.
Are these, would you be interested in sharing your songs with us at all? And either here live or like through the Facebook group, or is there any?
Yeah, I'll have to see what I have written down, because most of them I did freestyle, but probably through the Facebook group. Yeah,
that would be wonderful, because I feel like I love art that comes from the pussy. I mean, anything creative, I feel like, is just so much fun, but especially when you're connected in that way. And I feel like anyone who's been sort of successful in feeling ignited in their creativity through this process, I feel like it's inspiring for others to be able to witness it and see like, oh, that's what she's talking about. Because for some people that connects immediately, and for some people not as easily. But I love to hear that. Thank you. And Megan, I feel like what would be nice too is to share where you are in the world, so other women can kind of get a sense of like who you are, where you are. So where do you live, Megan?
I currently live in Wisconsin, in Madison, Wisconsin.
And that's a town I know really well.
Oh, yeah?
My ex was from there. I used to go there a lot. So beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Megan. Anyone else like to share? No. Quiet today. All right. Okay. Oh, I see Lulu. Hi, Lulu.
Hi. So I'm a little worn out, but I did have a really nice weekend, and I did a pussy painting.
Yes, more pussy art.
And I pulled it out to show it. I just started painting. Like I used to paint, like that used to be my thing. And I haven't been painting, but when I do paint, I'm more drawn to watercolors. And we went to the art store, Jess and I, and then Bunny came and painted with us as well. And I just started painting, and like my breath got really deep, and I just felt like amazing. Like I was almost like getting high while I was doing this. But just from painting and breathing. But this is
those fumes. No. Wow, that is gorgeous. Ooh, yes. I like what I'm getting, like what I'm seeing and feeling there is just like this gorgeous, kind of kaleidoscopic, crystalline core.
Yeah, it almost looks like a sea urchin and like a starfish and a flower, and like I showed one of my friends, and she said she saw like breasts.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's very feminine. And it feels like it's just sort of like this like jewel. It feels in some ways to me like it's the jewel in the heart of your yoni. You know, that's like bursting out. Like, because I'm seeing kind of like the lips and the opening, and it's like this exquisite, like colorful, kaleidoscopic, like jewel that's there in the center. So beautiful. Yes, yes, yes. I'm loving that people
I
are.
didn't even think that was what I was drawing when I started drawing, but it just kind of happened, and I kept going, and it was kind of euphoric.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, wonderful. And where are you?
I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, until tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll be in Denver.
Oh, we've got someone from Denver in here. Wait, who's from Denver? Or someone's from Colorado. I think it's Jen's sister. Sarah, right? Yes. All right. Would anyone else like to share? Morgan. Oop, wait. Yeah, Morgan, I for some reason can't hear you. You're unmuted on my end. Did you mute yourself? Yeah, we can't hear you. And on my end, do you see on the left-hand side of the bottom of your screen, there could be a little microphone where it says mute or unmute? Are you writing in the chat? Okay. Yeah. Sometimes these weird tech things happen, like if you've been on Skype or using your mic for something else, maybe beforehand. But we want to hear you. Do you want to write something in the chat? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into tonight's material. So this evening is our final evening. Sorry, let me mute. Tonight is our final evening with the sensual goddess. This is our final class with her. And what is kind of cool is that, remember, we're skipping next week. So you'll actually have an additional week to really be in this energy. And when we come back after Halloween, the first week of November, we'll dive into the warrior goddess. Our final goddess of the sensual goddesses is Lakshmi. And I love that you're all going to get this extra, like, 2 weeks with her. And Lakshmi, of course, is the Hindu goddess of prosperity and abundance. And because she's all about abundance, of course, she needed abundance of time for you to be with her. And prosperity, what I've really come to recognize for my own self, is something that I actually really experienced through feeling spaciousness around time. So I love that she kind of manifested in this way, so that you're going to have a lot of spaciousness with her. And I'm curious, Lakshmi is a goddess that many women know. Those of you who were in Prosperous Goddess, which is my 6-week course I did in the spring, that was basically almost entirely a Lakshmi course, because it was all about the divine feminine connection to prosperity. She's a goddess that's really well known. And one of the things that I find really interesting is that people know that she's a goddess of abundance, of prosperity, but very often people don't recognize her or see her as being sensual, as being connected to our sexual energy. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about today, is how the energy of prosperity and abundance is very connected to our sensuality as women, to our sexual energy also. And so I want to start by showing you some images of her. And of course, there's you'll see two behind me. I have a little statue of her and also an image of her on this sort of altar behind me. And oh, Morgan says that her mic is fixed. So let's see. Morgan?
You guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay. So
I don't mean to regress.
Yeah, it's okay. Before we look at the images of Lakshmi, I would love to hear you share since you now signed back in.
So part of my Yoni week, I've been dancing like every morning still, and I kind of let my Yoni like lead my dancing this week, which was really interesting. But I kind of wanted to bring up Emily, my partner, and I finally connected last night and really talked about our experience, and both kind of identified this one kind of like force that's been coming up, and I kind of equated it to this like force I've been learning about with my creativity, like with writing. I'm reading this book, The Art of War, or the War of Art. It's a play on the Art of War, and in it, Stephen Pressfield like really describes this like inner resistance that all artists have to their craft. And that's kind of like the first and the second week, like Hestia week, I cleaned out literally my entire kitchen, gutted everything. I was super I'm still engaged now, but like just not resisting it, like just surrendering to it, I guess. And the past 2 weeks, it feels like a similar, if not the same kind of force of resistance has been like more present in this work, which I thought is interesting because like when you think of Shakti energy, I mean, that's like the ultimate creative potentiality of the universe kind of, which is like a similar force as what artists use, I guess. So I kind of wanted to raise it and ask Amanda if like, I don't know, there's anything that you could speak to about it, because it's funny, it was like super subconscious. Like for 2 weeks I didn't really know what it was. I was kind of like, it wasn't like as flowy as it was like the first 2 weeks, but I think it's just some inner like resistance or something. And yeah, I would love like any insight into.
Okay, great. I want to put it on view so I can see everybody. Anyone that's been feeling, I mean, for some people I know that they've been having breakthroughs during this time, but anyone that's been feeling resistance, can you raise your hand? I just want to see where we are as a group. Okay, so yeah, so Jen's like kind of, Faye's been full on in it. It feels like Megan's been really in it. And I mean, one of the things to notice that, I see is that for our live course tonight, really only half the women, not even half of you are here live. And part of what is going on is simply, I think it's a few different things. I think one is that whenever a course begins, generally people are like really primed and on fire and, show up right on time and kind of set aside the time for it. And there's something that happens that as we get deeper into it, that in general, I think that people kind of can lose touch. So I want to just speak to that piece, that especially doing virtual courses like this, I'm wanting to learn especially when we're doing a 12-week course. So we're at week 5 right now, and the last one I taught was a 6-week, so we would be almost completing, but really we're coming to almost the halfway point. And just really wanting to tap into like where everyone is in their levels of engagement. And when people are not quite as engaged, part of that is just really the resistance to going deeper. And I want to also just really honor for the people that are watching the recording that aren't here live, that I also understand a lot of people have like business trips and things going on and reasons that they're not here. It's not saying that everyone's not showing up because of resistance, but just to recognize that what's required to really activate the work fully is to stay with it and stay committed. And there's a level of commitment that has to watching the videos if you miss it, showing up for the classes, doing the homework, really engaging, continuing to engage with it. Now for those of you, and what I'm hearing from Morgan is like, I'm doing the homework and I'm showing up, like you've been here for the classes and you're engaged. But there's still something beyond that that's resisting. And one of the things I would say is that it's not easy. Like, even though what we're doing is fun and it's playful and it's about joy and it's about pleasure, it's actually not easy for us as women to allow ourselves to connect to that, because we have judgment, we have shame, we have voices inside us that are saying that, oh, there's actually other things that are more important than my pleasure. There's other things that need to get done, or there's other things that take precedence over this. And so that's one piece, is that there's just a judgment about, as much as some part of your intellect can understand that there's value and that's why you're here, another part, just on a day-to-day basis, will be sabotaging. Will be sabotaging on some level by saying, you know what, this is more important. Go do this now. Do your work. Do your, get on the computer. Don't get into your body. And why? Because it's scary. And I really spoke to this in the first week or the second week, to how scary it is to be in our body. When I said, look, I'm inviting you. Can you handle this much ecstasy? Can you handle this much presence? Are you ready to really welcome that into your life? It's scary to feel that much. And along with the invitation into pleasure and into ecstasy, which we have the resistance to and the judgment about, there is a release of control that happens there. It's like the deeper you go into orgasmic energy, the deeper that you go into surrender to your sensual energy, to that sexual charge that wants to move through you into that pleasure, there is a surrender there that happens, that's a release of control. And we're often really afraid to release the control. And I would say, additionally, when the more deeply we come into our body, the more we feel everything. And often there are things, there are feelings and emotions there residing within the womb, within the yoni space, that we've defined and judged as negative, and that we're resisting feeling. So tears, anger, there's rage, grief. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that can be in there. And like, we're pretty sure, like, I don't want to feel that, and we've developed ways, we've gotten really good at stuffing that stuff down, not breathing into those spaces and not really letting ourselves experience what's there. And, the deeper that we go into our sexual pleasure and orgasm, some of you have probably experienced this, but it's like there are times where what's released, where it's like when the orgasm flows through, it's just bawling for me, and like convulsions of tears. I've had times where it's like just roars of like rage. And by taking the tap off of that sexual flow and allowing the energy to move through there, we have access to a lot of this stuff that scares us. And beyond that is the wave of joy and pleasure and peace and actually power that comes. So when we stop tamping that down, when we allow ourselves to be that connected to ourselves, that embodied, we really feel our power. And we're fucking scared of actually owning our power. Many of us have been programmed and socialized while we were young, to like be big but not too big, be beautiful but not too beautiful, be passionate but not too passionate, like, or don't be passionate at all, like, don't, some of it is like, don't be any of that. But it definitely, very few of us were imprinted by our social, by our environment to really feel like it's okay to fully own our power. So there are a lot of gates and a lot of, sort of protectors and soldiers, like guards at all of these gates that are at each step of the way. And, when you're engaged in a virtual course like this, it can be easy, if you want, to kind of escape and not do it, So I'm really glad that you brought it forward, Morgan, so it can be in the conversation. And I invite that into the conversations with the buddies. So I'm really glad to hear that you connected with your buddy and you were able to talk about that. I saw Emily also put up her hand that she's feeling some of that as well. So is this helpful?
It's so helpful, and it's so spot on. I mean, especially you speaking to us being scared of actually owning our power. I mean, that's a huge theme that I'm facing right now in my life in general, like, separate even, I mean, also obviously in this course, but, just like it's like a bigger theme in my life. So yeah, I mean, you're spot on. And it's not like I've absolutely been making breakthroughs, and maybe it's like the breakthroughs were like scary. It's like, oh my gosh, like I actually can, feel this good or feel this powerful. And so like, it was like after the first few, it's like, yeah, those feelings kind of started coming up. So it's so helpful. And I'll also say that last night on the phone conversation, we were like, okay, well, like tonight we'll both just, I don't know how to like say it, but like we'll both do a yoni massage, I guess you could say. Like, even if we're not like feeling it, even if we're feeling resistance, we'll just like push through it and like do that. And I did it, and like, I wasn't feeling like necessarily inspired or like called to do it like we typically are with like work like this. But I think like you're right, like part of it's just like showing up and just like, yeah, like not succumbing to those like faulty program messaging. So, but yeah, I've also been feeling guilty for like feeling resistance and like not feeling like I'm fully committing because I have that like energy. So I'm glad that it's part of the conversation, and it's like normal, or.
Yeah. One of the things that I want to say, is that I've done this work privately with a lot of women too, and been able to really map the journey. And one of the things that can often happen is that we have this kind of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing that can happen. And you described it. Often when that occurs, it's like this experience of feeling incredible surge of power. And I mean, Morgan, I know that you had reached out to me, a little over a week ago, really saying that you were having some of these breakthroughs of like huge, massive breakthroughs in some ways. So like you can kind of get that surge of power, and that's, sort of feeling like you're moving into a new space. And then because of the fear, something can kind of pull you back down. And one of the things I want to say too is to really have compassion, because compassion is a really good counterpart in this experience, to not judge yourself, because you can go further into the tunnel here if you judge yourself for the resistance you're having, you know what I mean? And then be like, let's fuck it all. And it's to kind of go, okay, to understand that part of the journey, and you all are going to have it at different moments, will be that 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing. And you're going to be taking those steps at different times, right? So one week, you're taking 5 steps forward, and someone else is in their week where they're taking a step back. And then, this week it's like, I could see Megan and Faye feel like, a lot was kind of opening for them. And this is the time where you're taking a few steps back. So it's just, that's kind of the nature of how it goes. So I think when you're in that place of resisting a little bit, or kind of feeling like you're taking that step backwards away from the power surge, to have compassion and just, kind of keep taking the next steps forward. And great that you went ahead, and when you did the yoni massage, even though you weren't feeling it, how was the experience? Like, even though you weren't feeling inspired to do it?
It was positive. I mean, I incorporated this like Shakti, like a meditation thing. So it was like spiritual, and I like made space for it. And I mean, I honestly haven't done it in like months. So I thought that it would be like, a longer experience and like maybe just more involved. But after like one orgasm, I was kind of like, I tried to like get into it again to continue. And I was just kind of like, I think that that's like good for right now. So it was a positive experience. But it wasn't like an inspired like stroke of, you know what I mean, necessarily.
Right.
But I think it's like when I'm writing, you know, if I'm not inspired to write, even if I sit down and just like put my timer on and put in the 30 minutes, like I feel great after. Like I accomplished it, I beat resistance that day, and you know, so I think a lot of, and it's funny because I really didn't make the correlation that it was like the same kind of principles, but yeah, so I think it was positive. I'm glad that I like did it and kind of, you know, pushed through even if I wasn't like, you know, called or whatnot. So yeah.
Great. Faye, I saw you had your hand up. So I feel like you have something you want to say here. Let me unmute you. Oops. Wait. Okay. You're unmuted.
Hi, everyone. I guess the only thing I wanted to say is it's interesting, but I think I've said, and Amanda, you know, I've done the course before. And Morgan, you said that you felt guilty. And I would like to say that when I did this course in the Sensual Goddess section, I definitely felt that guilt. And even this time, there have been just small moments of that. But I think it gets better because right after this, when we do fierce, and you can say, you know, fuck it all and give yourself something, I think that gets better. And I've actually can tell you that I've kind of called on that for myself to say, hey, I know, and I think as you get into that next step, you don't lose the sensual. You remember this and you can build on this with that part. And so I think it gets better if you, like you said, you just keep putting in the time. And that's just what I wanted to say. So and I know that I've been having a good time, but it's not all been because of Sensual Goddess. Like I've totally pulled in some of that. You know, like I work from home today because I just didn't feel like going to the office. And, you know, I've been putting in a lot of time. And I said, you know what, this is for me, you know, and just screw it. And just, that's what I'm going to do. So that's what I wanted to say.
Beautiful. Yeah. And Morgan, absolutely. I was thinking about that as well. Like, I know it's coming. So it's like when we get to the warrior goddess, that's where a lot of like, when we connect to this healthy expression of that fierce part of ourselves that has anger and rage, there's a way to kind of blow through some of those resistances, you know? And as Faye said, we bring the sensual goddess. And Faye, I actually have a very clear memory of when you did the course the first time, that when you had a huge breakthrough when we did Kali. And that was when actually a lot of your sexuality and your sensuality could break through, and you were feeling like you loved the sensual goddess, but it wasn't coming through as strongly as you wanted. And when we got there, that bursted through. And it makes a lot of sense to me. It's something that I really understand, because that fire is sometimes needed to really get that current going in the sexual energy, and to feel like it's a safe place to really be for yourself. So
before I did this course, ladies, I never even swore once in my life. Never once. Not even damn, never once. And then in Amanda's class, I was like, fuck it all. And I did this entire 5 minutes of just saying, you know. So yes, that for me, that was easily the breakthrough point. That's when I connected Central, when we got to the next step.
Yeah.
Wasn't even this step. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that's really important to understand for you all throughout the whole course as well, is that I'm so proud. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but they're like taking the trash outside and sirens are going off. It's like craziness out my window right now. But that for you all to understand that these are tools that you're going to have for a lifetime as well. And that if you kind of like keep showing up and you keep learning everything and just sort of accumulating these tools, you will find that you'll be able to continue to use them after this. And so it's like you're not having the apex of the sensual goddess experience during the time that we're in the sensual goddess. It doesn't mean that you're messing up or you're failing or you're not getting the benefit. It's like it's going to continue to work on you like throughout the, you know, the next 7 weeks of the course, as well as like after it's over. So just know that as well. Okay. All right. Emily's bringing up the moon. So I wanted to acknowledge as well that we have a full moon. It's a really, you know, that's an intense time for everyone as well. And what I love is that the full moon is in Taurus. And of course, Morgan is our like resident astrologer and probably knows much more about it than I do. But, you know, Taurus is sensuality and Venus energy and Aphrodite. And so it feels, to me, having our full moon there feels appropriate. And what I'd say is full moons affect us all depending on our individual chart, what's going on in our life so differently, but it's for everyone, there is just a charge, you know, there's a lot of energy that's coming up that's going to be expressed for you in different ways. So just, you know, part of connecting with the divine feminine is connecting to the moon and knowing that we are really affected by these phases of the moon. So I want to bring us all back to Lakshmi for a few moments and look at her images. And so let me just pull her up and do a screen share. So here's an image of Lakshmi. She's the goddess of prosperity, abundance, and receiving energy. And you also have a beautiful Lakshmi that's in your course manual that you can look at as well. And what you'll notice is this gorgeous pink lotus that she's seated on. And she's very bedecked and bejeweled in silken, you know, usually red or pink sari with gold edging on it, this beautiful golden crown. And she's got gold coins coming out of her hands. And she's got pink lotuses also in her hands. She's got 4 arms. And behind her are elephants that are pouring water, this nectar over her. And it's like she's rising up out of this river. And here is another really gorgeous Lakshmi, where once again you see these same symbols. You see water, you see lotuses, pink lotus in particular. She's wearing pink and gold coins. And then here is actually Kamala, who's the tantric form of Lakshmi. And I'll talk more about her in a moment. But I would love to hear just a little bit about what you are, what you know about Lakshmi, what you're familiar with. And is there anyone here who, not someone who took Prosperous Goddess or has taken my courses before, but anyone who wants to like share anything that they kind of know about Lakshmi? Or anything that you felt like from seeing her images? That's gorgeous. Lulu has a Lakshmi image on her phone. As does Jen. Gorgeous, gorgeous. What do you feel? You could type it into the chat. What do you feel when you look at her? Yeah, Diwali is coming up. We just had Navaratri, which is a celebration of the goddess, and then the November 7th is Diwali. Does anyone want to, what do you feel when you look at those images of Lakshmi? What does she invoke for you? Anyone? Anyone? Prosperity and happiness. Dazzled. Yeah. So I wonder if it seems strange to anyone that she's actually, she's money and she's also the sensual goddess. So, so Lakshmi, I'll tell you a little bit about her story first. So Lakshmi is born out of the ocean of milk. And the story goes that once upon a time, the gods and the demons both were not immortal and they wanted to become immortal. So what they did was they heard that at the bottom of the ocean of milk that there was a nectar of immortality, and they wanted this nectar of immortality. So they banded together and they brought a mountain and placed it in the middle of the ocean of milk, and they wrapped a snake around, and the demons were on one side and the gods on the other, and they had a kind of back and forth tug of war that created a churning of the ocean of milk. And as they churned the ocean of milk, all of these extraordinary things came up from the bottom of the ocean. And one of the things that emerged just before the nectar of immortality was Lakshmi herself. She rose up on a pink lotus, and she was immediately recognized as the goddess of prosperity and abundance. And she was married to Vishnu, who is the preserver god, and the two of them together carry this very similar energy. She's like the female Shakti to this masculine preserver. And so in the Hindu tradition, there are three primary gods, just as there are three primary archetypes that I speak about here in the Divine Feminine. In the Hindu tradition, there are three primary gods. They call it the Trimurti. There is Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And that is the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer. And these really match up actually with the three archetypes I work with. But the energy of Vishnu is he's the preserver of life. Whereas we have the creator, we have the preserver, and then Shiva's the destroyer, which is the warrior god. And he's married to some of the warrior goddesses that we'll cover later in the course. So she's married to Vishnu, and she is who we call upon when we want material gain, when we want abundance, when we want to experience prosperity in our life. Now, sometimes when I share this with women who are Hindu and who have grown up in that tradition, they're really surprised to associate her with the energy that we've been talking about so far, such as Oshun and the energy of Aphrodite, because they're so erotic and sexual. And in the Hindu tradition in general, there's not an association made between money, prosperity, and the sensual and the sexual self. And it almost could seem like shocking. And what you're going to be really immersing yourself and playing with and understanding this week, and actually the next 2 weeks, is this connection for yourself, for your own self, between understanding where does your experience of prosperity, your experience of abundance connect to your own inner connection to sensual, sexual energy, to your sexual life force energy. Now, if you think about the chakras, the second chakra is both in, the place that where we relate to money, and it's also the place of our sexual energy. So it's clear in our energetic system that these two things are related, even though often people don't consciously make that connection. So when we look at the images of Aphrodite, of Lakshmi, we can already see there a great semblance between the images of Aphrodite. Lakshmi has more clothing on, but other than that, they're very similar. They're both rising up out of a body of water. And Lakshmi is often pictured on a beautiful shell that looks very similar in many ways to this beautiful pink lotus that Lakshmi is on. There is something very kindred in their energies. Now, Aphrodite has taken on that erotic self and that romantic sexual energy, and Lakshmi is really, kind of going in this other direction where that's not what's being talked about overtly in any way. However, when you are connecting to this aspect of yourself, you are able to magnetize and attract wealth and prosperity to you. But not only that, it's only through her that you actually really get to experience your prosperity. And I think it's something that's really important to recognize is how you define prosperity. That's something I really want you to be thinking about a lot in the next couple of weeks is, what is a prosperous life for you? So in the Prosperous Goddess course, we really spend 6 weeks exploring that. But for you right now, just to start to feel in, how do you experience, start to feel into, how do I experience prosperity in my life? What is that really look, and what is it actually more, what does it feel like for me? Because it's a sensation, it's an experience. You can have all the money in the world. I know some extremely wealthy people, like hundreds of millions of dollars wealthy, that don't really live in that energy because they're drained and exhausted, or they don't allow themselves to drop into the frequency. So to really be able to understand that Lakshmi is transmitting a frequency that any one of us can tap into in any moment, and is not dependent upon your bank account, your bank balance. It is a frequency of prosperity and abundance that you can tap into within yourself, that you can experience and transmit out. It's a state of being. And that state of being is very directly connected to your ability to be here now in your senses. You get to experience prosperity and abundance through your senses, through sensation. And as I mentioned earlier, it's often through the experience of time, an ability, and that's where you really give yourself permission to drop into the depths. So every symbol in her myth has a lot of value. She's not on the surface. She's found in the depths and the bottom of the ocean floor. And that speaks to physically where you find her in your body. And it also speaks to this sort of understanding the difference between being on the surface level or being in your own depths. The depths of a moment. We tend to keep our breath shallow and stay on the surface when we're in anxiety and doing mode. And it's where a lot of our culture resides most of the time. And so you're never allowing yourself to really drop into the deeper layers that are present in every moment. That when you can drop deeper into your body, deeper into your breath, and deeper into the moment, that is where you find Lakshmi. That is where you experience prosperity. That is where you tap into the frequency of abundance. And it's from this state of being that then it gets to be mirrored back to us in our experience in the world. But the prerequisite is really this inner state. So the abundance externally can come and go. Her frequency, this energy of prosperity, is something that you experience in the moment and you always have access to. Now, how does that connect? So it connects to the senses, through your sensuality, by dropping into this present moment, to dropping in and experiencing what's really here. So when we're experiencing a flower, when we're giving ourselves permission to create art, all of that is an experience of prosperity. That is an experience of abundance. Now, the sexual part is really interesting because that sexual energy is the energy that propagates, right? It's the energy that creates new life. And it's the energy that makes us feel like life is worth living, and it's the energy that brings us tremendous amount of joy. And it is through that frequency moving through our system that we tap into really being able to magnetize and attract more abundance and prosperity. And the myth is really guiding us into understanding that she is found in these places within us, in these watery places, in these depths of our body and our energy. And that when we ride those waves of pleasure, that we're really inviting her frequency to move through us. And I want to speak for a moment just about some of these symbols and really the meaning, the deeper meaning behind this myth. Because every single piece of it is like a clue of how, like, it's sort of like this intricate weaving of a story with all of these symbols that was a way to transmit or communicate to someone, this is how you experience prosperity. Find these things. Find this within you. So we start with this connection to the nectar of immortality. And of course, she's married to the preserver. So there's some understanding here that our physical body, our physical self is a part of this equation, and that the prosperity is somehow part of like a cellular level experience of abundance within the physical self. And so they're seeking this nectar of immortality. And where is it found? It's found in the ocean of milk. So we're understanding that it's something that's liquid, something that's fluid, but it's also got this creamy quality to it in the milk. And a mountain is brought. So this earth, so we understand here like, oh, this earth energy and this liquid water energy are brought together. And of course, that's feeling into the physical self, like into your water. That is the lower chakra area. That's our sexual energy, is the water area, and the earth within the body, which is the root. So it's really dropping into this grounded place within. And then there's this churning that takes place. And then these things begin to rise up from there. So it's understanding that in our depths, like, you know, right now it's like just like feeling into like, oh, where does that exist within my body? Okay, it's like right down here. It's like really in my yoni, like in my root, in my perineum, like at this base of my body. And it's something that is going to kind of being churned, and we're going to feel into how that connects to our physical practice, being churned up and rising up. And it's going to rise up from there, that there's some treasures, these beautiful golden, like there's all sorts of other treasures and things that come up from this place, you know, that are all down there, kind of submerged under there, that if we start to bring some energy there and we start to move it and we start to churn it, that they start to rise up and be able to be seen and experienced. That it's kind of like this potential that's down there that we want to start to bring up. And so when and also what's really important too is the snake. Right? So this snake, the Sheshna, this giant snake that's wrapped around the mountain that they do this tug of war with. And I think it's interesting. I just really felt it as I was saying that it's the gods and the demons playing tug of war. And so just feeling into like what that feels like within you as well, you know, that it's like the devas and the asuras. These words aren't exactly gods and devas, gods and demons, but it's the closest thing we have in our language to describe what these asuras are. But it's like there's something going on that actually both the asuras and the devas are brought together in this process. And then there's the snake, Sheshna. And of course, this is a reference to that Kundalini Shakti energy and the divine feminine. You know, we've at different moments referenced the importance of the snake and this work and the connection to the goddess. And there is the snake is this really integral part of this abundance rising up. And so we have the snake, and then when she rises up, she's on this pink lotus. And the pink lotus, of course, the lotus is a symbol of awakening. It's a symbol of awakening consciousness. And this lotus is also a beautiful representation of the yoni. And so if you take some time to look at some images of Lakshmi and you really look at these pink lotus petals, it's very evocative of our, of our sexual anatomy. It's very evocative of a yoni. And there is a word that actually means both yoni and lotus, Kamala. And this fusion of these two, this spiritual awakening and this sexual part of a woman's body, is integral to Lakshmi as well. This is another clue into how we discover her, how we find her. And the fact that there is as well a kind of a spiritual awakening and an opening that comes through this process of connecting to our sexuality. So all of these symbols have such significance to understanding how we can connect to her. So I want you just to close your eyes for a moment and just start to feel into that part of your body. And start to see if you can make some kind of a connection between your sexual energy and this abundant energy, this prosperous energy. And when I was showing you, and when you start to feel that connection, you can just place a hand on your body where you feel that most. And I would love for you to take a moment and just really envision this golden light that is coming from there, that is both an energy of prosperity and abundance that you always have access to, and also a kind of awakening expression of the divine feminine Shakti within you. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes and come back here, or you can keep your eyes closed, either way. But I want to speak to, when I was showing you the images of Lakshmi, one of the ones that I showed you, the very last slide, I mentioned Kamala, who's the tantric form of Lakshmi. So there are the Mahavidyas, which are these 10 tantric goddesses, and one of them is, as I said, Kamala, and she is the tantric form, and she speaks specifically to the sexual aspect of her. So a lot of people are not aware that she has this like tantric version, or this tantric sister, and there you can very clearly see this connection. I want to really speak to you a little bit more about how you can connect to her in the next few weeks to draw prosperity into your life. And I want to, acknowledge that everyone is in a different place and different relationship to this. In a different relationship to what they desire to bring forth. Some of you may really be desiring concretely to bring money into your life, and some of you, it may be more this, it may be okay, all of my, everyone, who doesn't want more money? Everyone wants more money, but it may not be such an immediate thing for you. It's maybe well, that all is taken care of, but I would like to actually be someone who is able to experience prosperity, who's able moment by moment to really live in this place that feels abundant. We live in a world that the predominant frequency really is of scarcity. And it's scarcity around time, it's scarcity around resources, it's scarcity around money, even for those that have it. And because of that frequency of scarcity, there's a contraction that happens. And that's part of what keeps us from really being in our body. And that belief around scarcity is one of the things that can really prevent us from doing our practice and prevent us from taking our time to get on the mat. And, I'll be honest and say, that's something that I battle with at different times, that, and this is so my world, and it's my place to like be in my practice. And I give myself a lot of abundance around that. But sometimes I can really, sense that battle between like, oh, like I should do this thing and get on the computer. And her invitation to us is to understand that when we take the time to become embodied, when we take the time to drop into our senses, when we take the time to experience pleasure, we are emanating her frequency. We become Lakshmi. Just as I said before, any woman, connecting to her pleasure becomes Aphrodite. When we give ourselves time, when we really drop into ourselves, we also become Lakshmi. And it is from that place that we create the magic. It's from that place where the synchronicities happen, the phone rings, the flow comes in. And it really requires us on some level to really trust and know everything is okay. It's really, that's her frequency, is to let us know that like everything in this moment is all right. There's nothing missing. Everything's taken care of. Even if you sort of have these concerns in the moment, you're okay. So drop in and let yourself really experience that. That's her invitation. So I would love for you to take some time in the next couple of weeks to really feel into and experience like, what is true prosperity to me? How do I drop into emanating and living the frequency of Lakshmi no matter what's going on in my external circumstances? How can I connect to her? How can I be an embodiment of her? How can I experience her within myself? And, it's kind of like that question, sometimes you see those like bumper stickers, like, what would Jesus do? It's like, well, what would Lakshmi do? And so Lakshmi is inviting you, like, if you feel like you're worried about time, then take time. Carve out time, take time. If you're worried about money, it's like, take time. Or, give money to someone, make a donation, or give money to that person on the street corner, or, live in that frequency to make these choices that come from this place that everything is all right, that we are in that frequency of abundance. I also want to really speak about this life force and this physical part. She is very connected to our physical container, to the material world. Vishnu is the preserver of the physical self. That's her partner. It was the nectar of immortality that she's very much associated with. And so she's very much found and connected to the preservation of our physical body. And a Lakshmi woman, like when we're living in the essence and the vibration of Lakshmi, it's like there's a glow. There is a radiance that comes. And again, really understanding that it's this cellular level frequency that we tap into, right? Where we become the embodiment of her. And on that cellular level, it means that our body needs to be really taken care of in certain ways. One of them is blood sugar, making sure that we have enough fuel in the body, that we're getting enough fats in the body, that we're really taking care of this physical container. And when our body is like, when on a cellular level, like our body is well fed and the blood sugar is stable, our nervous system is able to really drop into that space of that frequency of everything is all right in the world. I'm trusting abundance, and I can give myself the time. The opposite of the Lakshmi frequency is this kind of contracted energy that happens in the body, where everything tightens up and the breath becomes contracted, the body becomes contracted. We're kind of like, maybe not eating enough or having too much coffee and it's like, it's kind of doing a lot of doing and not enough being and not enough like dropping in again to the liquid of the ocean, into the mountain, into that grounding. So she's inviting us into, for those of you that are familiar with Ayurveda, into a more kapha experience. And kapha is the earth and the water. It's like this kind of mud. And if you think about this lotus that Lakshmi, is rising up out of the water on, the thing about the lotus flower is that it's this beautiful symbol of spiritual awakening and of purity and all of these things, but it has this long root that goes down into the mud. They grow out of the mud. And so there's so much in her symbology that's just saying, get into the mud, and that energy of the earth and the water in the Ayurvedic tradition, which also comes from India, in the kapha energy is this real rooting and this grounding and this appreciation of fat. And in your manual, you'll see there's a little on the following page after the description of Lakshmi's story, it says, be juicy with ojas, halfway down the page. And I talk here about ojas, and I'll just touch on it briefly today, but you can read there as well, that ojas in many ways are kind of the equivalent of this nectar of immortality. Ojas is a Sanskrit word for this life force that we have. And it says it means vigor. It is the essential energy of the body, which can be equated with the fluid of life, just kind of like that nectar of immortality, this fluid of life. And it is this sap of energy that when it is flowing in us, physically, our body on an energetic cellular level is experiencing prosperity and abundance. And it is this subtle quality that is in between the physical and the spiritual. And there are things that we can do to support our ojas. So if you've been feeling tapped out, if you've been feeling drained, or you've been feeling like you don't have abundance in your life or abundance in your life force, then you really want to look at this concept of ojas and how you can increase them. And the way to do that is really by, eating regularly, not overexerting yourself. The opposite, it's like anxiety, worry, not getting enough sleep, not eating enough, over-exercising. These are all the things. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, that would be a vata imbalance, which is the air energy. All of that contracts you and makes it difficult for you to tap into this frequency. So when we're working with Lakshmi, we want to take our time. We want to eat foods with healthy fats in them. This is where it's like full fat butter, grass-fed butter, and dairy like yogurt, and creamy things, luscious foods, so that you literally feel like your physical body is like an overflowing cornucopia. Right? It's like this lusciousness. So words that are associated with Lakshmi are things like luster, luscious, unctuous, glowing, all of these things. It's like this radiance that comes from an inner lushness and lusciousness. So that's something for you to feel into. One of the things that I recommend as well is like doing self-massage, body oiling. Like these are ways for you to bring more Lakshmi into your life. And then on the following page, I list some foods like the fats. And I also have some foods here that are good for Aphrodite. And supplements, I definitely recommend taking an omega-3 oil if you're not already. It's just like you want to get these healthy omega-3 fatty acids and oils into your body, because that's going to help you feel more like this luscious Lakshmi energy. And also, there's space here as part of your homework to do a journaling exercise about your prosperous vision. So feeling into the things that I've discussed tonight with, what is true prosperity for you? what does that look like? Finding this really unique expression for yourself and just starting to journal about that and get connected to what does that feel, and really, as much as you're seeing anything, just really tapping into what does it feel like to be there. So if you see like a vision in your mind, really getting into the feeling experience and writing down the feeling state of that. And then there's also a homework exercise here that I recommend for those of you that are wanting to create more abundance on a like financial front for yourself. If you're wanting to call in more money, there's a great practice here that's from Esther and Jerry Hicks, which is called from the Ask and Is Given book. And it's a checkbook exercise. And you can do this like on a spreadsheet, or you can use it in an old fashioned kind of like writing it out in like a checkbook, in the sort of the register of the checkbook. But what you do is that you deposit this imaginary money into your account and spend it every day. So the first day it's $1,000, day 2 it's $2,000, on and on. Day 10 it's 10,000, day 20 it's 20,000. And I've done this many times. It's such a fun practice, and whenever I do it, stuff starts happening with my money and stuff starts magnetizing, and many of the things that I put in there end up happening. And the idea is just to really get into the experience of like what would bring you joy, how would you like to spend that money, getting really, really specific with it so it becomes very real for you. And really like taking the time. It's like if you're going to go to a spa, like to get a massage, like choose the spa, choose what treatments you want to get, find out how much it is, how much you're going to tip. You're going to a restaurant, like the same kind of thing. Like if you're buying a plane ticket, like really search the prices so that's very, very specific. And you can also like go into the stores and try things on and take pictures of it and then put it into your checkbook. And it's great because it gives you the experience of just really what does it feel like to be there, to be that abundant. And that's, for those of you that like specifically calling in money isn't the thing, you could do that if you want, but it's really for people that are wanting to call in more money, that practice. And then I have a whole list here of different beauty rituals. And these rituals are a way to really call Lakshmi into your experience, because it's all about taking time. It's all about being in your senses. It's all about being with your body. And many of them like have milk and oils and things like that included in them. So it's ways to just, one of them is a ritual face massage with oil, which is really, really very, very delicately, kind of like the body blessing exercise that we did, but just very, very gently and delicately massaging your face, taking such time and using a really gorgeous, thick, nourishing kind of oil for your face. And it's something that's so, so delicate that will actually start to open up the fascia on your face and start to actually bring away some of the worry lines and the things like that are happening, and just really open that all up. But it's also just experience of feeling your own self and just being so delicate with yourself. And then there's a recipe here to make a sensual goddess milk bath. And that's essentially like creating for yourself a ocean of milk. So it's taking dried milk, and I recommend like goat's milk or really high quality version of that, and then mixing essential oils and flowers, and you can do that all in a bowl or like a mortar and pestle and crush that all together and then put that into a bath, and it's so delicious on the skin. So these are all of these different things, hair oiling. And I also have in here breast massage and a meditation that you can do. So there are all these beautiful ways that you can physically worship Lakshmi within yourself by connecting to the body, by taking time. We tend to whether it's eating or it's showering and doing our self-care, do everything so quickly. And the sensual goddess and Lakshmi is all about taking time and understanding that when we slow down and we breathe in more deeply and we really take the time, that we begin to emanate that frequency. So I want to just check in with how you're all doing with this. Does anyone have a question about anything that I've covered so far, or a comment? No, we're all good. Okay. So what I would like to do in the last few minutes of our class is do a visualization with her so that you can start to have a very direct connection to her. And so I would love for you to find yourself in a comfortable position and close your eyes. And you could lay down or be seated. Either is fine. And with your eyes closed, I want you to first begin to just tune into that ocean of milk within your own body. And just start to breathe into that part of your body. And with the eyes closed, I would love for you to begin to just tune into what it feels like to churn that ocean. How in your own physical self do you churn that ocean of milk? Like you're churning butter. And I want you to feel into, am I churning? So if you're seated, you could be really feeling into your haunches, into the butt cheeks, into the thighs, into the bottom of the pelvic floor. Is really the base bottom of the ocean of milk, and be starting to circle and turn. And if you're laying down, there's a way that you can do that as well. It's just activating a slightly different place in the body, but just feeling into that you're beginning to churn that ocean of milk. And beginning to see that rising up. Maybe feeling different treasures, jewels, gold starting to rise up out of there. And feeling the frequency of Lakshmi herself. Can you feel what that frequency is like within your body? Can you feel this golden liquid light? This is the Ojas, it's the nectar of immortality, and it's the essence of Lakshmi herself. This golden liquid light that as you experience the awakening in the pelvic floor, as you experience the awakening in your genitals and in the whole sexual region of the body, that this liquid light becomes even brighter, richer, more unctuous, and feeling it move about. And it's almost like it's filling in places within your body. And as it's filling in, it's like your whole body becomes radiant with this golden liquid light. You feel yourself glowing, you feel yourself luminescent, and you feel yourself also solid, more solidly radiating the frequency of prosperity. That there's a radiance and also like a solid gold kind of experience of self. And letting this liquid light ooze and fill up and move through your torso, your breasts, your thighs, down your legs, up the back, up the shoulders, the neck, until soon your entire body is golden, lustrous, luminescent. And now settling into that luminescent self and just taking a deep breath in, feeling the belly, the abdomen, the chest, all opening, widening, and then exhaling it out and taking in the next breath and feeling it go all the way down. Feeling yourself really dropping into the depths within. Choosing, I want you to continue to inhale and exhale, choosing to breathe a little more deeply, choosing to be a little more present, choosing to take up a little more space, a little more time, and just really be here in the abundance of the now. Refusing to live in that shallow, disembodied space. And in this space, I invite you to say your I am statement. And now just taking a deep breath, letting that go, and keeping the eyes closed. I'm going to take you on a little visualization here. So I would like for you just to imagine that you're walking barefoot on sand, and the sand is perfect temperature. And you're walking towards the ocean. And there's lots of greenery and tropical plants and flowers and palm trees around you, beautiful fragrances of gorgeous flowers. And maybe notice what you're wearing. Perhaps it's something silky and soft that feels so good on your skin. And as you're walking towards the ocean, you see in front of you a beautiful setup that someone has made just for you on the beach. A luxurious lounge chair, an umbrella, soft cushions, beautiful colors everywhere. And there's delicious fruit, water and juices, everything that you could possibly desire. Someone knew just what you needed. And you walk towards this setup and you nestle yourself in this comfy, gorgeous, decadent, luxurious beach chair. And you notice that the sky, the air, the temperature, everything feels just so perfect today. And you look out over the ocean and you begin to see that there's a head rising up out of the water. And you see this beautiful face of a woman emerge. And she continues rising up, and you see this gorgeous, beautiful body. And she's radiant, golden. You recognize her as Lakshmi herself. Her skin, her hair, glowing. She's got a huge smile on her face, and she's looking right at you. And as she walks towards you, you hold the eye contact with her. You look into her eyes, and you can experience the transmission of energy that she's giving. And as she gets closer and closer, she becomes goddess-like, large, motherly, and she reaches down and she picks you up out of the chair and holds you in her arms. And she looks down at you. And she looks into your eyes. And she begins to whisper something in your ear as she delicately rubs your forehead and hair. And she speaks to you. And when you've received her message, you look her in the eyes and she looks you in the eyes, and you smile at each other. And then she places you back down in the chair. And she turns and she begins slowly walking back towards the water. And as she's disappearing into the water, she turns and she looks at you one last time. When you look at her face, you recognize and see your own face smiling back at you. And then she slowly disappears back into this ocean of milk. And when you're ready, in your own time, take a couple breaths, and then you can open your eyes. And I would love for you to take a moment to journal about what you experienced with Lakshmi. What she had to say to you, what you feel like you learned from her. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. 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 Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah.
Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namah.
Begin to wrap up your journaling, knowing that after we end the class tonight, you can go back and continue and spend more time with Lakshmi and more time with your journaling. I want to let you know that with any goddess that we're working with, there are many different avenues into connecting with her. One of them is the mental or behavioral. So as you're going through the next couple of weeks, feel into like behaviors and things that you can do practically in your life that will help you connect in and feel her. Then there is a physical way. So when you're doing your Shakti breathing, when you're doing your morning practice, invoke her within your physical self. So as I was guiding you there, just kind of loosely, I was saying, find that ocean of milk in your body, churn that ocean of milk, feel that frequency, that golden liquid light, that particular frequency of Shakti that is Lakshmi. Let that move through your body, see it move through your body, see your whole body becoming golden. These are some of the physical ways. The other physical way, of course, is through doing the beauty rituals, through the food recommendations that I made. And then there's the spiritual, which is to really open yourself to having that relationship with her. So it's like having images of her on your altar, through invoking her, through visualization and meditation like we just did, journaling with her, also her mantra. So that we were just listening there to her mantra, which is Om Shri Maha Lakshmiye Namaha. This is in your book. Om Shri Maha Lakshmiye Namaha. I'm going to take everyone off of mute, and we're going to do that in a ma to end the call tonight. And I definitely encourage you and invite you to try some of that chanting. Try the ma chanting in your morning practice, and also in particular try working with her mantra. And but what I'd like to do first is I'm gonna unmute everyone, and then I would like to go around and have you each share one word of what Lakshmi's message was, or what you experienced in your meditation from her, something that describes that. Okay, so we'll start with Megan.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm in tears and a little choked up, but I heard her more than anything tell me I was home.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, it can be very, very powerful when we're able to actually experience and connect with in that way with any of the goddesses. Sarah.
Radiant.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love we have some sort of little serenade of music that's coming through from someone's phone. Faye.
I was blessed and loved.
Gorgeous. Jen.
I heard forgive.
Oof, great, beautiful, beautiful. That's abundant.
Yeah.
right? Because forgiveness comes from like the abundance of like, I don't need to hold on to whatever that was because I have access to the infinite. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Lulu.
I'm almost there.
Beautiful.
I feel a breakthrough.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Emily.
I just felt warmth, like the sun on my face. I could just feel that warmth coming from her and inside of me. And I just heard her say over and over again, I love you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Morgan.
She said that I have everything I need within me.
Beautiful. 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 So let's do you think you got it, ladies? Om Shri Maha Lakshmi Namaha. Put a thumbs up if you think you got that. Okay. So for those of you that don't quite got it, you'll just chime in with what feels good. Let's do it 3 times together, okay? So close your eyes for it. Inhaling. Om Shri Maha Lakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Maha Lakshmi Namaha. Om Shri Maha Lakshmi Namaha. Beautiful. Let's do one Ma chant together. Inhaling. Ma. All right, so remember, no class next week. Lakshmi wanted 2 spacious weeks to work with you, so you feel like you have plenty of time and time to catch up if you feel like you're behind. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. Don't be strangers. Hop on the Facebook group, say hi, post any questions, wins, excitement, pussy art, pussy songs. Post it on there. All right, beauties. Good night.
And everybody.
Thank you, Amanda.
Mwah.